Hey everyone, welcome back to RoboCast right here on the Daniel David Allen YouTube channel. I'm your host, and with me, as always, is our expert.
Always ready to tackle a new mystery.
We're going back to the founding of the U.S. It's November 12th, 2024. Trump just won another term.
Wow, already. Time flies.
And Republicans control both the House and the Senate, so Christian nationalism is it's a big topic.
That's for sure.
So we started wondering, did the Founding Fathers actually want America to be a Christian nation?
Well, it's a question that's been debated for centuries.
Yeah. We found some sources from First Baptist Dallas, and they're making some pretty bold claims.
Oh.
Saying America was founded as a Christian nation, and to keep succeeding, we got to stick to that. They even say our laws should be based on the Bible, not just Enlightenment ideas.
Interesting. Lots of people think the founders wanted a Christian nation, though.
Yeah, right. First Baptist Dallas is using the Constitution to back up their view, saying 52 out of the 55 guys at the Constitutional Convention were Orthodox Christians.
Yeah, but the Constitution itself doesn't mention Christianity, does it?
True.
The Declaration of Independence uses broader language like creator and nature's God, but it doesn't really pick sides.
So, First Baptist Dallas also mentioned some early court rulings to support their argument. They cite cases like Runkle versus Weinmiller. In that case, the Maryland Supreme Court said that by our form of government, the Christian religion is the established religion.
That's pretty clear-cut.
Right.
But remember, the legal landscape has changed since then. The Supreme Court applies the First Amendment to states now.
Right.
That prevents the government from establishing any religion.
Okay, so what about Thomas Jefferson's Wall of Separation letter? First Baptist Dallas says that was only about preventing one specific church from being in charge, not about keeping Christian values out of government altogether.
But the Supreme Court has used that very phrase, that wall of separation, to justify things like removing prayer from schools and the Ten Commandments from government buildings. It seems like they're thinking about it more broadly.
Okay, so let's say most of the Founding Fathers were Christian. Would that automatically make America a Christian nation? What does that even mean?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it gets complicated fast. Christian nation gets thrown around a lot, but people mean different things. Some folks think it means God directly intervened in American history, while others think it's about America having a special mission, given by God.
And the AP News article mentioned some people opposed the Constitution because they wanted it to be more explicitly Christian.
Right. It shows how much they disagreed about what role religion should play. You know, we had figures like Benjamin Franklin who admired Jesus but wasn't what you'd call a traditional Christian.
A real mix of beliefs then.
Just like today.
Yeah. That article also pointed out that even now experts don't all agree. Some support the Christian nation idea while others totally reject it.
It's not just about what happened back then, it's about how we understand it now.
Right. Well, this is already pretty interesting. Let's get back to those early court cases. I think they'll be key to figuring out if America was founded as a Christian nation or not.
Agreed. They offer a valuable window into how people thought back then.
Okay, so let's head back to the courtroom.
Let's do it! Let's look at those court cases. First Baptist Dallas mentioned. They highlighted Church of the Holy Trinity of the United States from 1892. In that case, the Supreme Court said, no purpose of action against religion can be imputed to any legislation, state or national, because this is a religious people.
So they're using that to argue for a Christian nation?
Yeah, it sounds convincing. But remember, back then, many states still had an official church. Separating church and state was still developing.
Right.
The Supreme Court wasn't applying the First Amendment to the states yet. So those early rulings don't carry the same weight today.
Okay. But they still tell us how people viewed religion and the nation back then.
Absolutely. They show how intertwined religion and government were. It's interesting to compare that with our understanding of religious freedom today.
Yeah, for sure. First Baptist Dallas also mentioned the People v. Ruggles from 1811. The Chief Justice in New York said the country's morality was based on Christianity. They even contrasted that with what they called, quote, false religions like Islam and Buddhism.
Wow, well, that shows the dominant views of the era. It's a stark contrast to our understanding of religious pluralism today.
Right, and they brought up Vidal v. Girard's Executors from 1844 about teaching the Bible in schools. The Supreme Court ruled in favor, saying, why may not the Bible, and especially the New Testament, without note or comment, be read and taught as a divine revelation in the college? They even implied that other religions shouldn't be taught, saying something like, Such a case is not to be presumed to exist in a Christian country.
It does make you think. But again, our understanding of religious freedom was still in its early stages. The courts hadn't fully figured out the First Amendment's implications.
We're really seeing a different time, aren't we?
Totally. Values and legal interpretations changed so much over time. What was normal back then is totally different from today.
Okay, let's talk about that wall of separation between church and state. Everyone seems to have a different take on what Jefferson meant.
It's become such a loaded phrase. People use it for so many different arguments.
First Baptist Dallas argues that Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptists was only about stopping a state-sponsored church, like the Congregationalists in Connecticut at the time.
That's a common view. People who want religion to have a bigger role in government often point to that. They say Jefferson wasn't calling for a strict separation.
Yeah, they say he just wanted to make sure all denominations had religious freedom, not to ban religion from public life altogether.
Right, it's a nuanced argument. But we have to remember the Supreme Court has usually interpreted the wall of separation more broadly.
They've used it to overturn laws that they see as violating the First Amendment. Cases about school prayer, religious displays, government funding of religious institutions, all based on that principle.
And that brings us back to the big question. What did the Founding Fathers really want? Some might have envisioned a nation shaped by Christian principles, but the Constitution itself points in a different direction.
It prioritizes religious freedom. No special treatment for any religion.
Exactly. That's key to this whole debate.
This isn't a simple issue. There's a lot of nuance, even among people of faith.
Yeah, it's a complex topic and deserves careful consideration.
Let's hear some of the specific arguments from First Baptist Dallas. They've got some interesting points, even if we don't agree with everything.
Okay, let's hear it.
They start by talking about the Founding Fathers' religious beliefs, highlighting that many were devout Christians who believed God was involved in America's founding.
That's true. Religion was a big part of life for many early Americans.
They even bring up Benjamin Franklin, who suggested the Continental Congress start their meetings by asking for God's blessing.
Franklin's words about God and sparrows are pretty powerful. It shows a strong belief in divine providence.
Then they look at state constitutions from around the time of the Constitutional Convention, pointing out that many had religious tests for holding office and used explicitly Christian language.
Interesting. So Christianity had a clear impact on early American government.
Yeah, like they quote the 1776 Delaware Constitution, which required anyone in office to declare belief in God the Father, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost, and to accept the Bible as divinely inspired.
Wow. That's a far cry from how we see separation of church and state today.
And that's First Baptist Dallas's argument, right? They say the wall of separation has been misinterpreted and used to push religion out of public spaces.
It's a view shared by many conservatives and religious groups today. They feel like their values are being ignored and that America's moving away from its Christian roots.
First Baptist Dallas also challenges the idea that the Founding Fathers wanted a strict separation of church and state. They emphasize those early court rulings that seem to support Christianity's place in society.
It's an approach that focuses on specific quotes and a particular interpretation of history.
Right. They mention Runkle v. Weinmiller again, and Church of the Holy Trinity v. United States, where the court called America a religious people.
But remember, the legal context has changed a lot. The court's understanding of the First Amendment has evolved, and those old rulings aren't as powerful anymore.
So it's not as clear-cut as it might seem.
Exactly.
First Baptist Dallas also criticizes how the wall of separation has been used to take prayer out of schools and remove the Ten Commandments from public spaces.
They see it as an attack on their freedom of religion.
They make a good point when they ask why the founders included references to God in the Declaration of Independence. And why did they allow religious expression in government settings if they wanted a secular nation?
It's a valid question. Maybe their views on religion were more complex than we think.
First Baptist Dallas argues that America needs to get back to its Christian heritage to succeed. They think the nation's moral compass comes from the Bible, and that moving away from those principles is bad for society.
It's a message that resonates with a lot of people who are worried about where the country's headed. They want to return to when faith was more central to public life.
Whether or not you agree, they raise important questions about faith in America. This debate isn't going away anytime soon.
You're right. It's a debate we need to have with thought and respect.
Let's look closer at their claim that America's founding was inherently Christian. It sounds interesting, but does it hold up?
Let's dig a little deeper.
So, First Baptist Dallas claims that sticking to Christian principles is the key to America's success. Straight from that, and we're doomed.
A bit dramatic.
They even say American law should be based on the Bible, not just Enlightenment principles.
A bold statement for sure.
What does history actually tell us, though?
Well, the Founding Fathers weren't exactly unified when it came to religion. Some were devout, others less so. The key takeaway, though, is that they created a system separating church and state.
Yeah, that whole Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion.
Right. That suggests they were careful not to tie the nation's fate to any one religion.
Plus, American history is full of examples of the nation thriving even as its religious makeup changed.
Exactly. Waves of immigration, new denominations, none of that stopped progress.
So First Baptist Dallas's argument, it doesn't quite match reality.
It seems more like a specific worldview than, an objective view of history.
And remember those early Supreme Court rulings they brought up? The ones that sounded like the court supported the Christian nation idea?
Ah, yes. Carefully selected quotes can be persuasive.
But the Supreme Court's understanding of the Constitution, especially the First Amendment, has changed drastically since then.
Times change and legal interpretations change with them.
So those rulings are more like interesting historical artifacts.
Fascinating to study, but not legally relevant today.
So we've come to the end of our exploration. What a ride. We've examined the Founding Fathers' beliefs, analyzed court cases, even tried to define a Christian nation.
We've tackled tough arguments, challenged assumptions, and hopefully started some good conversations.
What's the verdict? Did the Founding Fathers want America to be a Christian nation?
It's not that simple. There's no one answer everyone will agree on.
History is messy, and everyone interprets it differently. But what is clear is that America was founded on religious freedom, and that idea is still important today.
It means everyone can choose their own beliefs or no beliefs without the government interfering.
And it means acknowledging that America is made up of many faiths and beliefs, all contributing to our society.
So if you learned one thing today, it's this. Question assumptions, learn from history, and form your own conclusions.
And be respectful of those who think differently. That's what true religious freedom means.
And we encourage you to keep exploring. Share your thoughts on the Daniel David Allen YouTube channel. Have respectful conversations. Keep those minds curious.
Until next time, keep those minds sharp and those questions coming.